Just a few fellas on a podcast, riffing in the pitching jokes and sharing some laughs. Rob Ryan, Brett Rudd, Jerry Bernstein. Ooh, they want to know if it's something, if it's anything. Jarret, did you send me iced coffee?
Did I send you an iced coffee? No. Just somebody sent you an iced coffee?
Yeah, and they signed the card homie, but not their name. And like they said, they called me homie in the card. And I was like, who else calls me a homie other than Jarret?
I say homeboy.
Just your neighborhood drug dealer.
I do like the idea of like a drug dealer doing gift coffees to everyone. Hey, I'm going to be selling drugs here. Just wanted to introduce myself.
New to the neighborhood. Just got out of the Crips. I just wanted to say hello.
Yeah, also you can't get out of the Crips. That's
yes,
that
blood in,
was
blood
the
out.
issue I had with what you said.
The Bloods were way more easy breezy about it, you know?
I beg to differ. I think that you absolutely can get out of the Bloods and the Crips. I think once you turn 40, they stop paying attention. They don't really care if you're like still in. They're like, are you still hanging? Get out of here. This is for 14-year-olds.
The problem is no one ever turns 40.
Yeah, that is the thing. That's what I'm saying. If you get to 40, you're out. Like they're like blood in, blood out. Or if you can rent a car, because then you're out.
Can I get a gang call from you?
Hey,
First in.
Are you halfway in the Bloods and halfway in the what's the place that the Fonz meets at?
Arnold's.
Yeah. Sounds like you're a blood. Hey, blah, 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 blah.
I also like that your sound check involves screaming gunshots into the microphone.
Yeah. It's not gonna get louder than that, Kevin.
Yeah, when I like a joke, you know, I go.
I was gonna say Jarret shoots. Oh God, forget it.
Has the moment
Jarret
passed?
shoots the jukebox and it starts playing. That's
Worth it.
Excellent.
Kevin, how's it going? Thanks for joining us today. First time guest, Kevin Dombrowski, everybody. Anything on your mind you want to share with us?
Sure. I feel a little down this week. I've been eating Starburst in bed. I don't know if you've been following me on Twitter. That's been a fun one.
That sounds great to me.
It's a grab bag, and then I pick an order of which color I want to headline,
Sure.
but I line up the flavors so it crescendos like a good show.
I tried the Starburst minis, the ones that you don't have to unwrap.
I don't like snacks that do that to you. That's like just the sunflower seeds without the shells. It's lazy to me, and it's like half the battle of eating it. Like half the fun of eating it is doing that. Like if there were no wrappers to stop me last night, I would be 50 pounds heavier.
Are you talking about being in the Crips again?
100%. There's no 40-year-old rapper to stop me. I would not be.
I like also that this discussion is like, Kevin's like, yeah, I'm not doing well. I'm eating candy. And we're like, let's focus on the candy.
I do like that, honestly. I honestly like that because I struggle with the thought of taking antidepressants. That's why I have so many empty Jameson bottles and candy wrappers on my nightstand.
Mm-hmm. That's the same as Zoloft, basically.
Yeah, it seems like it.
Yeah.
It for someone that struggles with the copay, I think it's appropriate.
You know, I in the last week have talked to like 5 of my friends where antidepressants came up and they were like, oh yeah, I finally was like, okay, let me give it a shot. And they're like, it's so good. And I was like, oh wow, that's great.
I am a few years into taking antidepressants, and that was my journey as well. I was like, I can't believe I waited so long to take these. They're dope as hell. Makes my life a whole lot easier. I'm going to say, well, as soon as you're done making those, Starburst whiskey cocktails, I would say go for it. I would say go give it a go. I support. I endorse.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I've heard though, Kevin, is that the antidepressants usually come unwrapped. So I don't know
if you have OCD, they give you a special prescription where each pill comes in its own little bottle that you got to unscrew.
Oh, that'd be so
like
nice.
Just throw that away.
Yeah, I had a stint with antidepressants, but my experience wasn't as good, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. And I know there can be a journey and you got to blah blah blah. I mean, it was weird because my depressive state was so completely life-alteringly miserable that I wasn't sure if it was like, in my mind, I was like, are we just kind of pissing in the wind, dropping a bucket type? Like, I don't really know. But like the side effects came. So I was like, something's happening, just not the parts that are supposed to be helping me.
Well, you can't get a boner anymore. So we know they're working. We know they're working.
For me, it was the opposite, which was good because I think no boner would have driven me crazy. Instead, it was just can never come. And I was like, this is
I don't
weird.
think it's the opposite of a boner, of not having a boner.
Is that not the opposite? What's that?
Yeah,
it's
I think
the
the
closest
opposite
thing
of
I
not
can
having a
think
boner
of.
is having a boner all
Always
the time.
having a boner. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think the opposite of not coming is just coming.
So the side effects are either you are flaccid and coming all the time, or you are always hard and can't finish.
Well, it wasn't always hard, but it was can't finish. But when you can't finish, aren't you always hard? I mean, like when
Good point.
there was one
I
sexual
saw that on a
experience.
fortune cookie once.
Took you 4 hours to eat it.
One thing that helped me energy wise and stuff and just kind of self-discipline was not aiming to come during sex. It just was like, because a woman can just keep coming, and for the most part, some can get a little sensitive, but they can come a lot more than us. And if you just don't make it your goal, then you could just keep having sex for a really long time. Kind of like, I guess that's tantric a little bit, but it was it. But when I haven't come in a few days, I'm just like, yep, gotta go to work and just want to eat healthy. I don't know.
You mean like not just a mindset, but rather, the goal is to complete sex, but you're like, I definitely did not come, and the goal was to not during the entire experience.
Yes, when you when I orgasm, let's say I experience 30 units of pleasure. But if I'm experiencing 1 unit per minute of pleasure, and now I go 60 minutes of sex, now I've ultimately had more pleasure.
Right.
I disagree with that.
This makes women wet to explain it that way.
It just sounds
Let
like
me
you
tell
come
ya.
really slow over an hour.
Especially when you add the numbers. Oh boy. Oh man. Let's get some charts in here.
But baby, we're up to 17 noodles of pleasure. I don't understand where you're going.
It's just
We're almost at 30.
1 moan per minute. It's just 60 minutes, and I'm done.
But also, women have more pleasure nerves, so an orgasm for them is just like this. It's a more pleasurable experience than for us. Coming feels great for us as well, but generally feels better for women. So I'm like, let me just give you tons of that, and then
Well, I will tell you guys something that I have not told a lot of people, which is that I had a lot of time coming because of my depression for a long time. Like I had sex, like a couple dozen times before I figured out how to finish during it. But then once I was able to do it during sex, I was like, this is so much better than a million of what I just did. And so I don't agree with your math there, Brett.
So just to be clear, you were on antidepressants and you taught
No,
yourself
I
how
was
to come?
not on antidepressants. I was depressed and wasn't able to finish because of it. Too much going on in here. Too busy.
and not enough going on down there.
Exactly.
Think with the wrong head.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Isn't it
would you
crazy,
start
by the
thinking
way?
with your dick, please? Just start thinking with your dick.
Meanwhile, your dick is like, I'm so sad.
In and out and in and out. Like, what's the point?
Every day, the same thing.
Isn't it crazy that men in the 50s all experienced this too, but just never talked about it and just beat their wives instead? Isn't that a strange.
Well, that's
thing?
what actually makes me come. I have a bit about that. I think that I'm a young parent, and it's hard to be a parent right now because it's harder to be a kid. So as a kid, I'm aware of everything I went through. And now as a parent, because I'm so aware, this generation, we're so aware of everything we've been through. It's harder not to parent, and not overcorrect it. And I think every generation before us has had that. We were just never able to complain about it before because you would get the shit beat out of you. So it goes back generation, and all of my forefathers suppressed it, and now I'm uncomfortable getting changed around my daughter because I don't want to give her issues. It's such a weird world that we live in, but all of that goes into play. I'm like, it's harder for me to parent because it's harder for me to be a kid.
It's funny that we think that it just keeps on getting softer and softer. It would be funnier if it was more cyclical, somewhere in the 1850s. they were just like super woke, super like chill, and like be whatever you want, just grow up, doesn't matter. And then that just didn't work. They're like, you know what? Fuck this, racism, kill the Indians. That's the way to be.
It goes from like the French Renaissance to the Industrial Revolution. It's just like everything's beautiful and naked, and everyone's coming all the time, and then Industrial Revolution. Depression.
Yeah. Like, fuck this. We got Carnegie's just come in and like, fuck you guys.
I don't have time to jerk you off. The steam engine was just invented.
Karl Marx is like, everyone coming is communism, and I'm against it.
Communism. I was gonna say, so when I was in this early phase of my sexual history and I couldn't figure out how to finish, I remember talking to a friend of mine, just being like,
say figure out how to finish. I want to know more about that. Is there a button combination?
The circle peg goes in the circle hole.
yeah, up, down, left, right, BA, right?
Oh, the Konami code.
Yeah, exactly. The Konami code. Come
on me
on me.
code.
I'll do this all day,
it's
guys.
the come on me code.
The come on me code. That's much better.
He's just got 17 coming puns that he's been waiting for this episode.
So I remember talking to a friend of mine, just be like, is it normal to have sex for like a half hour straight? And my friend was like, dude, you're a stud, well done. And I was like, yeah, I'm really good at sex. Like,
You're like, orgasms are supposed to hurt, right?
Do you guys all scream, let it happen already, and look at God? Is that what happens? You guys raise your fists in the air?
I remember a friend of mine in college started hooking up with a girl, and I think it was one of his first like real sexual exploits. And I remember him bragging to us like, yeah, dude, I fucked Laura till she was dry. And we were like, oh, good job, man. He was like, yeah, that's how long.
Which is weird because it wasn't that long, but still pretty impressive, I think.
I bet you that guy never changed his brake pads either. Dude, I drive until it's grinding. That's how good of a driver I am.
Squeaky sound? Same sound, bro. Same
that's how you can tell the car likes it.
Yeah.
when there's smoke.
Yeah.
That
everyone
means
looks
it's a
at you.
squirter. It's a smoker.
Well, sorry to hear that you're not feeling so hot, my man. Is it like a thing that you're like, I don't want to talk about it? Or is it like oh yeah, totally, this is what's up?
No, I think we just hit it. I think I'm just depressed. I think that whole 20-minute riff was just about how I have mental illness, and it's just rampant right now.
So not situational, just what's going on in here.
Sure. So Brett and I have known each other for, oh my God, probably close to 12 years now. Yeah, 12 months. I have severe obsessive compulsive disorder. And I was not. Brett's like, everything suddenly makes sense.
You're like, I've known Brett forever, so he knows I've got OCD. Right. He's like, oh,
that's cool.
Everything in my life started to make more sense after I met my wife. My wife has severe anxiety, and there's like a lot of bipolar that runs in her family. So mental illness was always like a very open thing. And so she was able to identify a lot of stuff. When I met my wife, she started noticing a lot of the signs. I'd never even heard the word anxiety until I met my wife when I was like 28. And then she started to explain certain things to me, and more it made sense. She was like, but I don't think you have inherent anxiety. She's like, I think that you have obsessive compulsive disorder. And when things get messed up, it gives you anxiety. And I did research on OCD, and it was like I was reading my biography. It was like every single symptom I've had at some point in my life.
OCD started doing stand-up comedy shows in South Philly.
OCD's a regular around the New York comedy circuit. Been seen on the Artie Lang show.
OCD did Bridgetown. Cool.
Wow. You can hear OCD regularly on the Dean Obi Dallas show on Sirius XM.
Hey, what's up? This is Mad Dog and the Wiz. We got OCD in the studio. He will not stop cleaning.
Yeah, please do 3. You might have seen this next comic circling the block, talking to himself.
What did you call anxiety before you had heard did you call it like bad stress?
Yeah.
Energy time?
I think it was stress. The best way that I can describe how I have it is like, don't push the red button. And the red button just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And you're just like, Jesus Christ, if I don't push this button, I'm going to die.
It is easier to say anxiety than all of that.
100%. You guys are like a fun therapist. It's like you can get your issues out and then they'll make fun of you for it. But at the end, you'll feel better about talking about it.
And also the therapist is like, oh yeah, well, I did that too. Oh man, I'm still.
You don't want a therapist that yes and you.
Tell you about how they couldn't come. I was looking into, I was like, I'm going to try therapy, and I didn't get far because the part of getting a therapist was so like there was so much in between, and then it was like I finally found one and they were covered by my insurance and all that stuff, and then they were like, okay, so just fill out all these forms and in 2 weeks we can get you an appointment. And I was like, okay, so if you successfully get to therapy, you don't need therapy.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, it's like you're developing coping mechanisms for yourself, and I would never want to talk anybody out of therapy if they're seeking it out, or medication if they're seeking it out. But there is something interesting about the culture shift today, which I enjoy. But sometimes I think people push a little hard on this concept of like, you're powerless, you can't do anything about it, you need external help and influences. But we've already come to the place when it comes to doctors where it's almost like the tide has shifted on the other side, where people are like, you know, I've gone to this doctor, they were shit, they don't know crap, they don't care about you, they're misdiagnosing, you know, all I needed to do was to stretch and or something. And it's shit like that happens a lot, right? So we've kind of like, we're in this, from my perspective, we're in this weird place where in the mental health field, you're like an idiot if you're not going out to seek out help. But in the physical ailment realm, people are quick to be like, fuck those doctors, they're crooks. You know, they're trying to do this.
Right.
And
I'm not getting a depression vaccine. I don't know what's in it.
Because like, I think that because when you do go to a doctor, and kind of what you're saying, Kevin, those initial visits can give you some perspective. You know what's going on with your body. But then when you have that information, you're like, okay, I know what this is. You know, I'm having this particular type of flare up, so I'm going to deal with it in this way, blah, blah, blah. And hopefully, if you have been therapized a bit and you know what your symptoms are and you know what your patterns are, you're right. Sometimes you're like, I think I got to deal with this.
Right.
I know what it is, and I know I can get myself out of it.
It doesn't work that way with like Valtrex. Like you need to take Valtrex when you have a flare up of herpes. You can't just be like, I'm gonna cope with this with my own mechanisms.
I just needed to stretch. That was it. I want to add this, since we're talking about it. I think that one of the benefits of therapy and medication for me was that, you know, depression for me, it came in a lot of it came in a lot of different forms, a lot of different varieties. And so it was really difficult for me to at any given moment say, oh, that's my depression. That's my depression. But just yesterday, I hit this thing that happened. It just like caused me to have a shame spiral. And because it was such an isolated thing, I was able to be like, okay, this is completely irrational. This is just a product of my depression. Now I know that when I'm feeling this, that it is completely fraudulent and I need to think of some coping mechanisms to deal with this. And it's because I'm seeing this homeopathic doctor and he gave me like all these home tests to do. Like I got to collect my spit and I got to collect my poop and stuff like that. And one of the things is he gave me like this card that I'm supposed to bleed on. They give you these little things. You stick your fingers on it and you got to bleed on the paper and you got to bleed like a lot. There's like 20 squares and you got to fill in all the squares with blood from your finger. And so I'm like, all right, I want to make sure I'm doing this correctly because this is important.
So I jerked off on it.
Wait, I can now finish because I remember I'm on Zoloft now. So I do all the things and I wipe it with the alcohol swab, and they told you, well, you want to increase blood flow, so work out and drink water and run your hands under warm water. And I'm like, all right, I did it all. And I do it and I puncture my finger and I was only able to get like 2 squares worth of blood. And I'm like, I think I did something wrong here. So then I did my other finger over here and couldn't even get an entire square of blood out of one finger. And then I'm just like, I just ruined this test. I'm such a fucking idiot. I just ruined this. I gotta get another test now. Oh, you fucking, I can't believe you fucking did this. And now you got holes in your fingers for no reason.
And that's how you figure out you're 23% Norwegian and 5% German. It's just like a big 23andMe. However, you can bleed is what your ancestry is.
So I suffered with that for like about an hour. And then I was like, oh, this is the depression thing. Oh, okay.
I think Jarret's homeopathic doctor sent you a coffee this morning, Brett.
Thank you. You said you're depression has been coming in all different varieties. And I was thinking how funny it is to have like a depression variety pack. And then you started talking about all the different tests. You're like, I got to collect my blood. I got to collect my poop. And I'm like, is that the depression variety pack?
Ooh, this is a little poop.
What if that's
I feel sad.
What if that's his actual, like that wasn't even the test. It was just his thoughts were like, go collect your poop, go collect your blood. And then the test came in and then I felt better.
I like to Jarret blaming everything on the depression. You know, he gets fired from his job. His wife leaves him. He's like, this isn't real. This is just my brain telling me things.
She'll be back. I go to
I'm
work.
not sad.
I go to work the next day. And they're like, you were fired. I was like, I don't think I was. I'm on medication now.
La, 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 la. My brain does crazy things to my head.
Our order this week is Jarret, Brett, Kevin, Rob, Jarret, Brett, Kevin, Rob, Jarret, Brett, Kevin, Rob, Jarret, Brett, Kevin, Rob. Okay, here we go. I like to use the phrase passed away when describing death. It feels gentler, you know? It's like, how's your grandma? She passed away. Like, it sounds kind of pleasant. It's much better than the word dead, which is so much harsher and more dramatic. Like, how's your grandma? She's dead. She died. Then you have to throw your drink in their face. Like, dead. You son of a bitch. Add, you son of a bitch. My one criticism of passed away is that it can be too gentle. Like, sometimes it doesn't fit how the person actually died. It's like perfect for natural causes and dying in your sleep. But if it's anything else, passed away just sounds inaccurate. Like, how's your grandma? She passed away. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. What happened? Torn apart by wolves. Oh my God, that's passing away. She was sucked into a jet engine. Jesus. Oh my God. She passed away. She got smushed by a falling grand piano. Okay, that woman did not pass away. She did.
When somebody says that somebody passed away, it almost feels like you could be like, oh, so when are they coming back?
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, Jesus passed away. Mm-hmm. And that was the only hard out that he came back in 3 days.
I wanna see a funeral where like a priest speaks at it. So this would be like a Christian or Catholic, funeral. And the person did get brutally murdered. Like I want to see, because they're usually very gentle in their language and the way that they speak. And they're like, this is one of God's children, and they took God's children back, and God needed them, blah blah blah. But you're like, no, this person was stabbed 17 times. They're like, right, but God needed them.
That's really funny.
So truly,
so
whatever.
he sent his messengers down to
His messenger was a dope fiend.
to not open the parachute.
God needed someone with 17 stab wounds. He was missing an angel. I also like when you say, like, my grandmother passed away. To me, it'd be funny if you go, oh, how? Run over by a bus and then passed away passed right by us. Oh, there goes grandma. She's passing away.
Rob, give me an idea of just like describing a pretty grisly death and then adding surrounded by loving family members.
Oh, it's so funny.
Torn apart by wolves. She loved animals.
Jarret, I would put a slight tweak on the premise in that I think it would make a little bit more sense to me if you were saying, instead of like, oh, there can be other examples, it'd be like, I think there are certain examples where passed away doesn't fit. And that's basically what you're on. But I think that just altering that for me would connect a little bit more.
Was anybody else there? I was there right away.
When I was talking about how it doesn't work for every method of death.
Yeah, like you could check the footage. As soon as I start nodding my head, I already am like, yes.
I noted that, and I was like, it's funny that Rob's already there because I am setting up this for another sentence and a half. So
that's funny. I think I audibly went, nah.
For the comics, they already start filling in the blanks. It's like, oh, that would be a funny punchline. I'm left already.
I still haven't figured it out.
That's not an audience tell. When you have a comic nod at the premise, that's, oh, I love the direction they're going in. It's not necessarily even, oh, I got the joke already. Because then they could flub the punchline in the direction you wanted to see, and then you're disappointed in the joke. But when you get another comic to go, oh, that's great. At the setup, you're like, oh, there's so many different roads, and I hope this is where it goes. So I think that's more telling that you have something than when an audience laughs at a premise, they're just a really good audience. They don't necessarily know what's coming. They're just laughing at anything that's got a humorous twist to it.
I agree with Kevin.
Check the footage because I think when Jarret was like, "I like the term passed away," and I was like, "Yeah, I know where this is going." I was like, "Yes, do it."
But when you know where a joke is going, you're like pretty sure, like it's a hack premise or something like that. You're never nodding along. It's like,
Yes.
you're just like, I hope there's a twist here.
Like, why the chicken cross the road?
Yeah.
I actually
Okay, I see what you're doing.
actually nod
actually-
every time I hear someone say "women be shopping." I go, "Oh,
Okay. Yeah, give it to him. Give it to him. I was actually a little upset when you did say the thing because I was like, I was going to suggest that. Good joke.
Any thoughts about the dead part at the very beginning? Like, she's dead, she died, then you throw your drink in their face.
Oh,
like, is
yeah.
that too on the nose, or
No, I like that. I like that interpretation of throwing the drink in the face. Like when you say my grandma is dead, it sounds like you're accusing the person of doing it. She's dead and it's your fault.
I take that more as like, how's your grandmother? And you go, she's dead. And then you throw a drink in their face for even bringing it up to you.
I do like adding the as though it's their fault at the end. Like, that feels like it could be even more meat to scrape off the bone there.
Practical side to what I was saying was that I believe that it is totally fine for you to just say, I like the term passed away, and then get to the next part quickly, because it just rang untrue to me that this is what you're talking about. I didn't buy that. I'm like, he's genuinely wants to tell me that he just likes the term passed away. It's really nice. And I'm like, that's not true.
So you were like, I know that there's another joke about passed away,
and it better be
not
this.
working, and that's where what he wants to get to.
Is that where you were, instead of nodding, you were doing this, like you were fishing? Come on.
I have to say that I just have to put it out there. I do not agree with Rob so hard that I needed to nod. I was trying to do a bit as soon as Rob started giving feedback, and then I realized that it was probably rude because Rob was giving good feedback and nobody noticed, and I was like, all right, now it just looks like I'm really agreeing with Rob so hard. And I was like, oh man, I need to say something.
That's really funny. I actually did feel good catching you in my periphery. I was like, I am crushing it with this feedback right now. Brett is super on board.
So, question for you then, because I do like comparing passed away to she's dead, but will it solve that if I then just like tighten that section up? If I do that joke quicker so that I can get to the turn, does that satisfy that for you, Rob? Or does it, are you still like, that's all fluff, that's all fat, cut that out of there?
It feels that way to me. That's just me. I don't know. I'm always trying to move ahead. Audiences aren't generally. So, if the moment is enjoyable enough, then great.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm not 100%.
I would say
sure.
if you can tighten it up, that's always the answer.
Yeah, I do generally enjoy that. Me and Alon Altman, like literally, we're doing a podcast for a while. We're trying to guess comics punchlines. So my brain is like, not only do I enjoy writing jokes, but I actually fucking love cracking other comics jokes quickly. Don't listen to me too much when it comes to that, because I'm like, I want to figure this out. Like it's a riddle.
You must hate my jokes. I'll be like, I got kicked out of magic school. That's the setup.
Pause. All right, let's see here.
I think it's got to do with this mechanic. I lie somewhere in between. I am of the camp of adding layers and laughs along the way, as long as it's either engaging, building momentum, and doesn't hurt the sharpness of the ultimate punchline. I like sometimes a lot of my bits end up being combined short jokes that don't work enough on their own. So I push them to either prove a premise correct, or it's a little side note. I call it like a cul-de-sac. If I'm driving down, a road, I kind of drive down this cul-de-sac, I fill this whole thing, and I get back on the road. I do that a lot with longer bits because I don't want it to drag until it gets to the punchline, and I want that momentum build. And it's almost like you prove each section of the joke true until you hit the final punchline. But again, that being said, if it takes away from the sharpness, then I'm against doing that. I think it's camping too much. So it's got to help the ultimate bit, and if it doesn't, then I take it away.
By the
That's a
way,
great philosophy to have.
those roads are called cul-de-sacs too.
Correct.
Yeah, it's not just something you call them.
No, I made that up. I call guys, Cul-de-sac jokes.
I call my balls cum to sex. Number 9. Number 9.
Sometimes people will have these long, drawn-out stories, and then they'll say, like, yeah, and then I can throw a couple jokes in there to get there. I'm like, whoa. You just described, like, the hardest thing in the world to do, which is throw in a couple of good jokes. I was like, to get to this thing. I was like, I don't think that's the way to go. You should probably focus on shortening and clarifying this story as much as humanly possible and only focusing on the absolute most important details. And then if you have something that is just undeniably funny and hilarious, but also thematically related and helpful to the overall point, then we can add that joke in.
Well, sure. So a lot of what you're saying, the latter of what you're saying, is really forcing a theme, and it forces a punchline that is inorganic to the set just because you think it needs to fit on this linear line. I write linear because all of my act is really just my experience. So like my voice is just my perspective. The subject matter is just what I'm going through in my life. So like what I'm working on for my hour is all about being a new dad. And my first hour was about getting married. So it's just really my perspective of all these different stages in my life. Like Brett and I could not be more opposite of each other. In fact, so much so he didn't even know I had OCD.
Yeah. I thought you were
Brett's
black.
got BCD. Oh, wait.
Yeah, DCO. I've always been jealous of comics that can just like write short, good jokes on just like a variety of different subjects. And it's like, you've got something for everyone. For me, I have to find a way to relate exactly what I'm going through to people that may never, ever live that experience. And I find that like, that's mostly what my voice is like, here's what I'm going through, and I now have to find a way to fucking relate that to every type of person in the crowd.
Who's ever been married and had a kid? Like, nobody. How am I going to make this relatable?
You will never experience this in your life.
This.
How do I put it into words?
And it is because I am a wordsmith and I have crafted this experience for you that you're even able to get a sliver of it.
My special is called Children of Men. I'm the last one on Earth that's able to have a natural
Children
kid.
of Men.
All right. Anything else for this bit, y'all?
Excellent bit.
Thank you, guys. All right. Next up, thank you for the content. I keep on doing that. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for the notes. Notes is better. Thank you for the notes, everybody. Thank you for the feedback.
Possessed by a YouTuber? What just happened?
Don't forget to smash that like button.
Smash, subscribe.
That just bugged me. It bugged me that
Sorry, that keeps happening.
It's the second time that tripped me up. There was a episode that I'm editing right now where I was like, thanks for the content. And then you guys roasted me for that. You're like, all right, you think of everything as content, Jarret. All right. Well, thank you all for the notes and for the feedback. Next up, we got a Brett guy.
Right. A nice little quick one here today. If you do heroin a lot, people are like, that guy's got a problem. But if you do mushrooms a lot, people are like, that guy's cool. Which I like.
Yeah, I love that.
Quick note, I think that Kool is a little too unspecific. I think you should, that guy is a great spirit guide or something like that. Something that's a little bit more specific to mushrooms.
That guy is going places.
Somebody who does a lot of mushrooms going places?
Mentally.
Emotionally?
Emotionally, yeah, that's true.
What about if somebody does a lot of mushrooms, everyone's like, he's so interesting. He has so many interesting, I always saying cool things.
I was trying to specifically set it up for that guy's got a drug problem versus that guy's cool. Like thinking that guy's got, it's going to be in the same format, but it's just kind of undercut with the word cool.
For some reason, I do agree with Jarret, though, that cool just sounds like the wrong, for some reason. I don't know what's going on today. That's a little Freudian slip.
You know, the idiot that I do this show with who never says anything correct. I agree with it this time. Weird. I'm going to have to examine this after the episode today.
Maybe I should get back on antidepressants. We should go to therapy.
I should. Okay, I have to interject with this. My mom has only met Rob one time, and it was very brief. And I just had lunch with my mom recently, and she had met and spent more time with Brett. So whenever she's asking about how my friends are, she's always like, how is Brett? And I'm like, oh, Brett's good. But this time she goes, how's Rob? I really like Rob for some reason. But I remember thinking, like, at the time, it's so funny that she added for some reason, because I know what she meant. She meant was like, I haven't spent a lot of time with Rob, but I like him, as opposed to I have spent a lot of time with Rob and I still like him for some reason.
Well, I think that you just broke down what Rob said. I have spent a lot of time with you, and for some reason today I agree with you.
Exactly.
I don't want to offend Jarret, so I will say what was probably going through my mind, which was Brett gave a full-throated defense of his word choice, and I just was like, yeah, but I still there is a part of me that does agree with what Jarret's saying. So there is reasoning.
I think you should have said, for some reason, I disagree with you.
Yeah, it just feels very A to B, just to say that guy's cool.
Yeah, but that has been my experience. Like, nobody is like, oh, drug. Everybody's just like, oh, cool.
All right, yeah, I don't want to deny the reality of the joke either. Like, it almost felt like a letdown of a punchline, like almost like what we were talking about before, which is like, okay, I think I know where this might be going, which is like, this is bad, this other thing is good. But surely Brett's going to have the right word that I didn't think of. But then when you said cool, I was like, no, that's kind of...
That's because I'm 3 steps ahead of you.
No one ever talks about how 3-dimensional chess is just tic-tac-toe.
Are you married to the guy that does heroin is a drug addict?
You just made me think of a side joke, if you don't mind me popping it in there.
Yeah.
People like using that phrase, like, are you married to this idea? But it's really weird to use it with a divorced guy, because you're like, what does that even mean? I don't understand. Are you married to the idea? Maybe I was for 15 years, and then maybe nothing matters anymore because he's a terrible person.
Well, if somebody who's been divorced tells you that they're married to an idea, they're probably not that attached to it.
That's great. That's hilarious. So much better than Brett's joke. That's hilarious.
I'm glad I was able to get one in a few seconds.
No, I think I like the idea of, so when you say cool, it inherently means that people want to hang out with that guy. People like being around that person and want to experience more of that. So when I hear that, I hear like someone that does heroin a lot, you go, wow, I wonder if he's got a drug problem. Someone that does mushrooms a lot, you go, wow, I wonder if he's got more mushrooms. It's like one of those situations. That's what I hear in my head, is like, no one wants to be around a heroin addict, but everyone wants to be friends with the guy that does mushrooms.
Right.
Sorry, what about this variation? If somebody does a lot of heroin, everyone's like, that guy's got a drug problem. If someone does a lot of mushrooms, everyone's like, that guy's got a didgeridoo. And he played it on stage with Vampire Weekend. That guy's cool as shit.
What about that guy's got a lot of friends? If that guy... if a guy does heroin a lot, they go, wow, that guy's got a drug problem. If someone does mushrooms a lot, you go, wow, that guy's probably got a lot of friends. Something in that direction that just unfunnily explains what I did before.
I feel like I've picked up on a tell of when Brett's just like, none of this is helpful. I don't like what you're saying.
Yeah, it's usually when I'm done talking and you guys start giving me feedback.
It's like, I know what the point of this joke is, and you're getting further and further away from it.
Do you not like any of these, Brett?
I liked Kevin's, what was it? The guy's got more mushrooms. That one, to me, was like an equally funny take, maybe even a little bit funnier. But it's not like it's just a very simple joke on the perception of different drugs and how people are.
I think that the term drugs is just like a very strange coverall, and we don't like have a good enough lexicon for all the different types of drugs. Like, you're kind of hitting it just like heroin versus this. We do have some words. There's like depressants, narcotics, psychedelics, whatever. So there's a part of my brain that has to ignore the fact that we already do make the distinction that like heroin is not a psychedelic specifically. So there's a part of me that's going like, yeah, well, seasoned drug users and people who know drugs are not going to put psychedelics in the same category as narcotics, right? Like, that's just something we're not going to do. So there's like a little bit of a logic thing for me there where I'm like, yeah, I think we all know the differences between that.
In this, this is a larger chunk that I'm just adding a line to. I'm going, I'm not much of a drugs guy. So I am using this thing where if I'm saying I'm not much of a drugs guy, that could mean I don't do heroin, and it could also mean that I don't do mushrooms. It is playing on that thing. And within the way that we consider, if somebody says I do drugs,
that could mean either thing.
I was going to say, actually, how far, Rob, into your explanation did you realize Brett stopped listening to you?
So yeah, what I love doing is just going further into like drugs and like, what is this word?
I wonder if Brett's on drugs. I do think the joke is much funnier when you're talking about your experience with mushrooms, because then at the end, you're basically calling yourself cool. And I think it adds a different layer to the joke.
Absolutely. I mean, I've only tried it once. I did it on the tail end. It got a pretty good response. But it's just like in that joke, I'm basically saying I have to do mushrooms a lot.
Right.
Now I am commenting on like it's a weird perception change because you'd think telling people that they would be like, oh, this guy's got a drug problem, but that's really not the case.
Right, but it also becomes a double entendre of you calling yourself cool, which makes it even funnier. Where it's like it's not just a generalization on society. It's like you're also being like, yeah, that guy's cool. It's like you just told 3 minutes of you taking mushrooms, and now you're like, yeah, the guy that takes mushrooms is really fucking awesome. He's got like he's got a great life. He like
that's just what I hear back from people.
I'm thinking of other drugs too. So I'd be curious to know, is there some kind of overarching word that can go with other drugs? Because that's what immediately where my mind's thinking. I'm like, is he going to do marijuana? Is he going to do cocaine? Is he going to talk about other drugs too? And I know that seems too fairly obvious. Yeah, we go. Then my mind jumped to like, it'd be funny if like a cancer guy came out and he's like, I do tons of drugs. It's chemo though, so it's not that cool. But I do tons of chemo. Just give me more.
When you do a lot of heroin, people are like, that guy's got a drug problem. When you do a lot of chemo drugs,
that guy's got a lot of cancer.
He's got a drug solution.
Or wait, hold on. Are you spelling cool with a K? Because then I changed my entire thought. If it's cool with a K, I'm totally on board with all of this.
These are also the execs at Kool-Aid. They're like, I don't think this drink's going to work. There's no way kids are going to... Wait a minute. Did you just spell cool with a K?
Do you mean cool cigarettes? Because now I'm on board.
All right. Well, thanks, guys.
I don't think you mean that. I don't think you mean that.
I never do.
I'm not sure if he meant it for months now.
Is that thanks with a K or a C?
All right. Well, great bit, Brett. Next up, we got Kevin. But before we get to him, just want to remind everybody to check out our Patreon, patreon.com/ITApod. Best Patreon on the block. We got a lot of exclusive episodes for only patrons. High riding challenges. We got at the movies. We got great ideas. We got kids on bikes. Additional tiers for more money, but you can join for as little as $1 a month. Patreon.com/ITApod. Next up, we got Kevin Dombrowski.
All right.
What I like about that, what you just did, is you did the advertising before I talked in case people sign off after I start my joke. They never hear the ads for the Patreon. You're like, let's just get this in the can just in case when he opens his mouth, viewership plummets.
Yeah, ask all of our other guests. I always do it after the guest. But for you, I was like, put this in beforehand. I feel like we're going to lose some clicks once this guy starts talking.
So the joke that I have is it's actually one of my cul-de-sacs in a much larger bit. I can't seem to get the rhythm, the wording, the timing, subject, or the punchline in. No, it's so basically the overall premise that I have is that as a new parent, the most shocking thing is how you can't be yourself. And it's weird because you find out that you're going to have a kid and you think to yourself, I have to change everything about myself. And then you have a kid and realize how unrealistic it is. And you go, I have to change who I am in front of my kid. And it's really, I'm really working on the wording. I want to mirror those. I just haven't sat down to actually think of the wording of it. Brett, you have a question? I thought you raised your hand. I was like, oh, that's
no, I itched my arm.
He thought of more reasons why he hated our notes.
Have you thought about saying cool? So you find out you're gonna have a kid and you go, I'm fucking cool. You just have to pretend to be someone else. To prove that right, I've got these cul-de-sacs along the way where I go, do you know how hard it is being a father with road rage? Do you know how difficult that is to just be a completely different person. And I had a revelation yesterday because a woman in a Starbucks drive-thru told me I had to go around to go behind her, even though I had been there longer, going from the other direction. And with my wife and kid in the car, I can't be myself. What I want to do is tell her to go fuck her mother, but I can't do that in front of people. And I don't want to say that in the bit. I want to find a different way of just wording it. But really what it is, being a father with road rage is just being a cuck on wheels. You just have to let people fuck your car and be okay with it. And it's so difficult for me to do that. I was changing lanes to go home the other day, and my kid was in the back seat, and I had my left blinker on for about 3 blocks. It was bumper to bumper traffic, and no one would let me in. So I eventually just forced my way into the lane. And the guy behind me threw his hands up like I ran over his mother on the way to that lane. And it incensed me. I lost my mind. Full me came out. I'm screaming in the mirror. I go, I've had my blinker on for 3 blocks. You wouldn't let me in. I'm not an asshole. You're just a fucking dick. And I screamed that in the car. And then a second later, my daughter screamed dick. And it was like the moment I realized I have to change. I don't know what, like, I can't be me around a kid. And I think that's why fathers have baby on board stickers. I don't think they're afraid of getting into an accident. I think they're afraid of getting cut off. It's like, give me a break. I can't curse at you. Just be gentle when we drive. I really think that's the situation. That's the main cul-de-sac I really can't figure out. And then there's a bunch along the way to a bigger story that's actually done about learning how to speak like a father. So it's the realization that I can't be myself. Here's proving why I can't be myself, because I'm an animal. Here's how I've seen parents be to kids, which is like parents just, they pander, which is probably where the word comes from. It's probably a delineation of being a parent. I watched a mother at a kid's party go, will you eat? Will you eat if I eat with you? Will you just watch me eat? Will you eat? Will you eat? Will you eat if I leave and I never come back? It's just like, it's like negotiating. Like any inch I can get so your kid lives. And then going into my experience of learning how to talk like a father, because I actually did get into a fight with another father at a store. And
that's funny, because if you both like just trying to not
100%, dude, 100%. He literally, he cut me in line and I went, what the fuck? And my wife saw me go to do it and she goes, act like a father, act like a father. And I go through this whole thing of like my split parents and how they acted. And the overall premise of being a dad is just, you have to be so nice they know you're angry. That's the only way you're able to actually be mad as a parent. I now have to go up to another grown man and say, I just want you to know I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. So I got to be so nice. He knows this. I go, oh my God, I'm so sorry. That's my mistake. Please, by all means, after you. And this really happened. The guy leaned in. He goes, thanks so much and have a great day. And I was like, I turned to my wife and I go, I'm pretty sure you just told me to fuck myself and father. It's the realization, proving how I know I can't do this, watching how other parents do it, and then my experience of trying to do that. So the road rage thing has me the mirroring of the premises and punchlines that I haven't figured out yet. I think the funniest thing for me is that you probably the most common lesson that people are teaching their children is essentially to be themselves. Right. And so you're just like, you're now, in order to teach them that, you just have to totally not do that.
When you are talking about the difference between changing yourself versus just changing yourself in front of your kids, there's an idea in like, where's your space then? Like, where do you just get to be you now? Right. So to answer that real quick, what I was saying, I would say I have to change everything about myself. And then I would say I have to change the room that I'm myself in. I just think it's unrhythmic and I think it's too ambiguous for the audience to follow me along. I know my thought process of like, oh no, I just have to be myself in a different room. No. I mean, I think that this could be an additional bridge from one bit to another. What does it look like when you're trying to have road rage, but you're also doing baby talk at the exact same time? You know, so it's just like, he just cut daddy off, didn't he? Right. So my sister-in-law does this thing. If her kids aren't talking enough, she go, tell Uncle Kevin what you did today. And like, I always laugh about that because it's like, you clearly just want to tell me what the kids did today. So just tell me yourself. But it is funny to be like, why don't you tell the stranger what he did wrong? Why don't you tell the stranger that he's going to give daddy a heart attack if he keeps doing this?
That's really funny. I used to work at the Olive Garden in Times Square, and parents often with their little kids wanted to like build up their self-efficacy by having them order for themselves. And I am busy, and I'm just like, look, this is not the time to teach your kids some fucking life lesson. There's 2 things on the menu: it's chicken fingers, mac and cheese. They're like, what would you like? They're like, grapes. Like, they don't have grapes. They don't have grapes. What would you want? Cereal. Okay, baby, they don't have cereal. Tell them. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Just tell me. Order for the kid.
At Trader Joe's, sometimes people would have their kids hand me the groceries one by one from the cart, and then I would be like, okay, like line's building, and then so I would start like, grab, and a parent actually went, we're trying to teach her not to grab, and I was like, okay, well, good luck with that. You teach her another time.
I love Brett just asking the baby for permission to grab everything from the cart. Can I grab the chicken now?
May I?
One more joke about Olive Garden. I was passing out dishes to everybody. Every time I passed out a dish, the parent was very keen on making sure that the kid said thank you. They're like, and what do you say? They're like, thank you. Pass out a plate. What do you say? Thank you. What do you say? There's like 3 different kids. And then I give her a plate and she says nothing. And there was like this moment, my brain. I was like, God, this is too funny not to say. And I looked at her. I was like, and what do you say? And she looked at me like, you piece of shit. All right.
That's so funny. My daughter says bless you every time someone sneezes. She's a year and a half, and it's really cute. But my wife sometimes has bad allergies and will get into a sneezing fit. So she says bless you every single time. And sometimes I look over and I go, dude, you might want to pace yourself. This is gonna last like 2 hours. Like, do the first and do the last. Nothing in between.
It's April.
That she inherited your OCD.
She does the cutest thing where she touches a doorknob 15 times exactly every time she leaves the room.
And if she doesn't, I die.
She has a fear of the oven being on when we're in play. We're at the playground.
It's actually funny. I never thought about that. Like, the OCD person's always concerned that like their grandma's gonna die if they don't do a certain thing. But I wonder like what the grandma feels about that. If the grandma's ever like, did you touch that thing 15 times? Like, I don't need this to be my last day on earth. Yeah. All right, I'm sorry.
Do you think that's what was going through Cuomo's head? He's like, if I don't cook these books, old people are gonna die. And they're gonna know it was me.
Great premise, man. There's so much stuff here that I really, really liked. Talking about how you have to become a different person as a dad, there is like a time though that goes away eventually, and then eventually you merge into each other, and you're just kind of like waiting for that day where you can start to be yourself again. And like, I wonder what that age is going to start to be, where you're like, this was it the whole time, this was me, sorry. You're like, that other guy was like this fake phony baloney guy. Also, I love the concept of when you curse this person out, or when you said this whole sentence, then your daughter says dick, and then it just made me think of this cul-de-sac, if you will, maybe, of like, it is funny how curse words just do hit different. Like, there is something about it that, like, I said a lot of words to that woman, but my daughter zeroed in on the best one. She was like, what did you just say? Like, I just dropped like fucking, beat it on her. Like, I just like dropped a Michael Jackson hit. She was like, what the fuck is that? I want that on repeat. Like, wow.
Yeah, you even said the word interesting in that sentence, and she chose dick.
It is funny too, because and I swear to God, every time she hears a horn honk, she says fuck, but she says truck or duck. She doesn't know what the word is yet. But from driving with me the other day, it's just like a car was stuck outside the house and just honked, and she went fuck, just like in the living room, and my wife just stared at me, and she's like, that when she, like, I don't even drive. She's like, that one has to be you. It's like this weird Pavlov's dog situation. She hears a horn and it's like she's in bumper to bumper New York traffic.
That's great. I love that.
Could I interject real quick?
Of course.
Because I was thinking about the 2 people again, where, there's who you are and who you want to be in front of your daughter. Do you anywhere in the bit talk about like the difference between you and this other person?
No, I break down my realization of how I have to be. What I say is, because my wife said you have to act like a father now. And what I end up saying is, I don't know how a dad acts. My dad just talked until people got bored and walked away. way. And then eventually he did too. And I say, my mom really perfected being a parent. She would be so nice. You'd know that you're in trouble. Where if you did something wrong and you go, I'm so sorry. And then your parent goes, get in the house before I beat your fucking ass. You go, well, once the bones reset, they'll forget about it. But then if you go, I'm really sorry. And they go, it's fine. You go, I'm going to die in my sleep tonight. They're going to absolutely kill me. And that's my realization of the separation between them is like, I'm not a nice person and I now have to be nice to let people know I'm actually angry. And maybe that's what it is right there. I know I'm not a nice person. I'm aggressive. I'm tired all the time, but I now have to fake being nice so they know who I really am to begin with.
I think there's a potential material there for just describing that person.
Totally.
When I'm in a room with my daughter, suddenly, like I don't curse anymore. I don't have rage problems. This guy that is raising my daughter doesn't X, Y, or Z.
I do think where I'm going after this is the realization of who I am as an aging man and just accepting. Like I'm accepting becoming crotchety. It doesn't even bother me. I like being that. I like being short with people because it limits what annoys me, if that makes sense. So that's like, I feel like that's going to be the whole next direction is like, I have my wife, I have my daughter, and my next part of my act is just going to be about my relationship with myself, really.
Here's something that I wanted to explore. I think that this notion is flawed. Just because we happen to have certain knowledge now and we have a certain opinion culturally as to how we're supposed to raise kids does not mean that we are ultimately correct. It just means that this is what we have come to believe in 2022 in America. That's it. Where you have to put on such a front and such a face. Because I think there's a decent argument to be made that you being your true self and showing your daughter how to exist in the world, there's a strength to that too. I find it to be like really fascinating for you to be like, now I'm trying to be super nice to this guy. He's trying, but that's not how he would handle the situation. Totally. And that's not how I would want her to handle the situation when she grows up. So now I'm like driving myself crazy. I'm like, should I just unleash the beast and just let her know, like, this is how it's done? And then it made me laugh because I was thinking of the Indians again. I was like, people didn't do this back then. Just because some pilgrim had his kid with him, he wasn't like, all right, very good. Oh, a musket. Oh, wow, that is very, very nice. Okay.
That's actually how Thanksgiving started. They were so angry they just sat down to dinner with each other.
They both have their sons with them. Oh, we'll sit down. Oh, corn. Wow,
Would
you call it
the mashed potatoes, please?
Interesting. And they're like, hey, Junior, why don't you go run inside real quick? I'm just gonna have a talk with the natives here. Yeah, go ahead. He's got a fucking machete. yeah, just run along. We're just gonna have a talk. And then I had this other like kind of dopey like off idea. You said that there's a separate room that you could be yourself. I don't know if that's a metaphorical room or if that's a physical room. If your daughter ever wanders into that room, she's like, this room smells like what is this room? It's just like horrible. Like all of your terrible thoughts, habits.
You can sense the hate just radiating out of that room.
Oh God, it's glowing from underneath the door.
I like it better if it's a physical room and she goes, this room really smells. What's happening in here?
There's just alcohol and candy just fucking everywhere.
Has this always been here?
When you said, I have to go to a different room to be myself, I was like, well, that's why men love garages.
100%. 100%. You think we're just hanging out, but we're just fucking air punching. So there's like a curse wall. You're just fucking yelling. Instead of a glory hole, you just put your mouth on it and yell curse words into it.
Glory. That's great.
The problem with this bit, it's the last joke in the hour and I'm too close to it. I can't see the corners. I can't see the different angles that you guys are seeing. So this... Like I just wrote down all these notes, and the word "cool" with a K. So no, this definitely gave me a lot to like bring on stage and then see kind of what angle works. It's kind of now I'm in that accordion phase. Joe DeVito says it perfectly. It's an accordion. You expand and contract until you get to like the perfect sound of the joke. But no, this definitely helps.
And that's an instrument that everybody knows. That's a good analogy.
Absolutely.
We all know how to get just the perfect part of the accordion.
It's the didgeridoo effect.
Great pick, Kevin. Hope that was helpful.
Yeah.
Next up, we got
Ryan.
All right. I imagine that when a race car driver gets cut off in traffic, they're probably like, solid. Solid move. Like, how could they get angry? Like, they do this shit all the time. They're just like, a little on the technique, but otherwise... Actually, not bad. I'm gonna give it to him.
Is there a word that you could use, like the way that people that play chess, they would be like, the Greeks could do,
That's a good point.
So when
You're
they
right,
cut
I
you
don't
off,
know.
just be like, hey, I gotta hand it to him. That was a perfect Earnhardt lefty or whatever.
yeah. I was thinking maybe not a technical term, but like they could remember, like, I remember when Andretti pulled that one on me back in 06. That's all right, that's pretty good.
What if he also has some criticism for it? He's just like, should have pedaled in. You should have pedaled in.
Yeah, like criticism for himself, you mean, or for him?
Or either one, I think is really funny.
Yeah.
Just
I left an opening. He's more mad at himself. He's like, I left an opening. Like, what are you gonna do?
Does NASCAR have like referees?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
There you go. Do some of that. I didn't even know if they had referees, so I don't know what a referee would tell somebody in a situation where they were doing something wrong.
He's honestly a guy that sits on like a lifeguard chair and he just watches them go 150 miles an hour around the thing.
It's kind of funny. Like, what are you gonna do if something's going wrong? Like, no, oh boy. Everybody's dead.
All the cars have to stop. He goes up. The car's like, starts talking to him, and then the cars are like, it's like, hey, don't you do that to me.
Flag on the play 20 laps ago. Wasn't able to say it in time.
I don't think this is going to work, but what if you did like the National Treasure? Like it reminds him of something that makes him a better driver in the ring, on the track. So he gets cut off and he's like, interesting. And he like takes out paper and he's like,
oh, that's funny.
Then the next time he races, everyone's like, where did he get that?
795.
I do like Jarret's Freudian slip of a NASCAR car being in a wrestling ring, and the next time he gets in the ring, he's just running wrestlers over it. You said the ring instead of.
Oh yeah, just because I don't follow NASCAR, so I don't know.
But that's so funny to
I'm
me.
sorry, the ring around the rosy, whatever.
The racing courts,
Next time he's in the high school hallway, he's
Listen, when they drive around the field or whatever.
I got one liner I wanted to throw out to you guys, and then I will fade off into the sunset.
All right.
Oh my God.
I'm gonna pass away.
I'm gonna pass away.
Is someone changing your past right now? What's gonna happen?
I always wanted to rock one of those Chinese finger traps, but I don't think I can pull it off.
Guys, I'm gonna quit.
What's the point? It's the perfect joke. What are we even doing here?
That's it. No notes, just thumbs up or thumbs down, unless you got better wording.
Or thumbs together. I think it's great. No notes. I love it.
This was a great up. We did it, boys. I think we did it.
Yeah, well, that's a fantastic episode. Kevin, anything you want to plug? Where can people find you?
Yeah, you can find me online at all of my social media at Kevin Dombrowski. There's a link tree in the bio. It's got my own podcast called Just Joking, where I sit and riff with another comic each week on news stories going on, basically doing what comics do off stage anyway. And then also my tour dates are updated weekly, and that's at the bottom, and it's got links to my other social media.
Thank you so much for joining us. What an excellent guest and a great episode.
And great
Yeah.
audio quality, too.
Can't wait to hear that new hour, my man.
Oh, I'm going to drop it as soon as this episode's done.
You highlighted chats I'm going to read out. This show is great and teaches us a lot about comedy and writing. I love you guys and the content that you make for some reason.
Excellent, Steel Mold.
All right. Thank you all for joining us. And Jarret, what goes where?
Outro goes here.
Thanks so much for watching. Check back every Monday for new episodes, or you can listen wherever you enjoy podcasts. If you want to help support the show, tell your friends how much you like Is This Anything? Or get involved, like an episode, share, comment, subscribe. If you want more Is This Anything, you got to join our Patreon at patreon.com/ITAPod. We have a ton of awesome exclusive content on there, and you can join for as little as $1 a month. Check out the links in the description, and hopefully we'll see you next week.